All right.
I'm coming home, Newcastle. Ben Arfa all the way. What a goal! Hassan Ben Arfa! A magnificent goal! I'm coming home, Newcastle. Cisse. Oh, that is sensational! Happy Cisse.
Good evening, salam alaikum, and welcome to Riyadh for a very special edition of LW Newcastle with our special guest. What's your name? Oh, sorry.
السلام عليكم، مساء الخير جميعا، اهلا بكم في الرياض. معنا اليوم ضيف مميز، حلقه خاصه من نيوكاسل مع وليد. معنا ضيف مميز ستيوارت بنمان، جاءنا خصوصا البحرين لهذا البرنامج. Welcome ladies and gentlemen, or let's say lads and lasses, to Newcastle with Alwaleed, a special show, special edition tonight. We have Stewart Penman. Welcome, Stewart.
Shukran. Very good to be here. Nice to visit Riyadh again.
I see you are wearing top. Hope you wasn't difficult to wear it.
No. When in Riyadh, you know, as I said, when in Rome, so when in Riyadh. When you asked if I would wear the national dress, I said yes, of course. Why not? It's respectful. It's very nice. But then, if you can see this headdress I'm wearing, it's called for those back home. It's called a shamak. Alwaleed want me to wear the one that he's wearing, which is red and white.
Actually, this is Shumag.
It's red and white. It's red and white. Yeah. It's Sunderland colours. So you've got to draw the line. I said, draw the line somewhere, buddy lad. Get me a black and white one, or I'm not doing it. So we've got a black and white one. So here we are.
How's your trip? It was good.
Well, yeah, it was eventful. That's for sure. For those who aren't aware, I was travelling from Bahrain with a colleague on Saturday evening. We were due to land in Riyadh about 9:30. It was timed to perfection, so I would have got to the hotel in time for the Newcastle Wolves game. The flight was going very smoothly. We were landing in Riyadh. The descent had started. We're about 10 minutes away from landing in Riyadh. And then on the flight map, the plane started turning around. So my colleague said to me, "It's turning around." I says, "No, you'll just be circling, you know, it'll be a busy airport, etc., you know." And then after about another 5 minutes, the plane lately was diverted, going straight back. The way it came, it was going back the same way.
You didn't be scared. I thought you were the same Bahrain.
No, it's all right. Nothing to be scared of. The pilots in control. So we got to the stage where a lot of the people on the plane were realizing, and some started panicking. So the air hostesses were doing a very good job explaining how it happens quite often. You know, it's not often, but occasionally the Saudi airspace have been closed. So the captain come on and explained the same thing. The airspace have been closed, where I'll give you further instructions as I have them. So the map, it just shows the straight line we come. We're going back on the straight line, and then after about another 10 minutes, if people weren't a bit worried, the captain then come on and said, "We will be heading straight back to Bahrain. We will be landing in Bahrain, providing we have enough fuel to get to Bahrain. If not, we'll have to make an emergency landing." And that caused a bit of panic with the passengers. But again, as I said to my colleague, I don't think the pilot chose that day to be his last, and he knows what he's doing. So thankfully we managed to get into Bahrain safe and sound. They told us that no one was to disembark, and we had to wait further instructions from the air control. And after about an hour, they said they do plan to return to Riyadh. They are expecting the airspace to open, and by this time everyone was on their social medias and on the internet, etc. We found out that Yemen had been deciding to choose that night to send some missiles into Riyadh, and thankfully the Saudi air defense system once again performed exemplary, and they managed to create a nice fireworks scene in the sky, and we were safe to return. They did allow some people to get off if they wanted at the end. After that, only 3 people got off the flight. We had to wait for their luggage to be taken off. Then we had landed back into Riyadh 4 hours later than originally anticipated. So I managed to watch the first half of the Newcastle game on the iPad, but missed the goal.
Yeah, we'll come to Newcastle later.
Yeah.
We have plenty to talk about Newcastle. Did you catch some sightseeing?
Well, no, obviously you have the quarantine stage to go through as well, which I've just finished now. So hence the reason we're out in the desert somewhere in the middle of nowhere and doing the show. Something a bit unique. We did have a fire blazing, but it went out and that was a bit dangerous.
What was the picture?
Oh, yes, that was last night. We visited, well, Alwaleed was kind enough to show me around Riyadh. We went to different places, and one of them, as you can see on the picture on the screen, is the PIF headquarters, which is those three green, bright buildings. Four, is it? I could only see three when I was there, and that's sober. So there's four bright buildings there, which are the PIF headquarters, and during the day the gold. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So at night the green, during the day the gold. So there's some fantastic sightseeing there in the picture that was well received on Twitter as well.
This is Riyadh, the space.
Oh, well, you haven't taken me in the helicopter yet.
All right, so let's ask you, what's the actual reason of your visiting Riyadh this time? I know this is the third time.
Yes.
But if you can tell us the reason.
Well, I work in Bahrain for a luxury real estate developer, and previously, prior to coronavirus, we were doing a lot of good business with Saudi investors who were looking for high-end properties or were looking for an escape, like a holiday home. And the causeway is due to reopen soon, so we have a lot of contacts. I've got a lot of meetings lined up for the rest of the week, and it's to meet people and again put Bahrain back in the forefront of people's minds, because when the causeway reopens, which is I believe it's a 26-kilometer stretch of bridge, which is the longest causeway in the world, it will be like the wacky races getting into Bahrain from the Saudi end into Bahrain. And another boring stat, 88% of Bahrain's tourism comes from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So it's very popular because people have had to have curfews and there's been a lot of restrictions. I think the idea of having a luxury place to visit rather than having to travel to Europe or further afield appeals, and we've been warmly received here in Riyadh as well. So it's proved to be a very useful trip so far.
And you said something about that I'm aboard somehow.
Oh, yeah, yes. If there's anyone who is watching from Riyadh or other parts of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia who would like to know more about luxury investment in Bahrain, then please contact Mr. Alwaleed. He has all the details, and we have people who can speak Arabic, English, and Geordie. So if you are interested, get in touch with Alwaleed. I'm sure you've all got his details, and he'll pass on further information from there, and we'll get one of the experts to get in touch with you.
Let's have a coffee break. Arabic coffee.
Right, I don't drink tea or coffee, so this is going to be fun. But I'll tell you what, that last time I tried this Arabic coffee, for those watching from Newcastle, they might understand this more than those watching in Riyadh. Once I got back home, I went to I went to the washroom, as they call it here, and it was like the start of scat man. So I let this cool down.
China?
Oh yeah, China. Well, the Arabic coffee is nice, but I was telling Alwaleed a story yesterday evening where I went to China, and as I said, I don't drink tea, and it's very disrespectful not to drink tea when you're over there. And we had a business meeting, and I was with a colleague, and there was a Chinese interpreter, and she says, "Please, Stuart, just accept the tea and just drink it. It won't harm you. It's okay." Because you will cause great offence if you don't drink this tea, a bit like this coffee, I suppose. So but in China, it's like a ritual. They pour it from a glass to a cup to another, like a kettle, and it's all done on a tray. And to pour, well, a cup this size, which is like a good shot glass back home, to pour a cup of tea that big, it takes them about 10 minutes. So anyway, this Chinese gentleman went through the full rigmarole process of doing it, or procedure, routine. He gave me the tea in a clear glass cup, so you could even then see how much I had or hadn't drank. I couldn't even say to him I've drank it. It was really nice. and we were talking about business through the interpreter, and his fascination was on this teacup, and he kept looking at it all the time. So the interpreter was nodding at me like saying, drink it. So I let it cool down enough, and I just knocked it back in one go. I thought that's good enough. And he says, "You like?" I said, "Yes, very nice, thank you. Share, thank you, Chinese." And because I said thank you, he instantly poured another cup. And by the end of that meeting, I had 8 cups of tea in a row. So I wasn't too keen. Yeah, the coffee's all right. I'll just take my time with this one.
We have similar, similar habits about getting
really nice.
About getting offended. Some old, old tradition here we have in Saudi Arabia. It's very old. I believe maybe some people still do it. If you visit someone and he give you the Arabic coffee,
yeah,
and usually if you have a demand to this someone who provide you the coffee, usually you didn't drink it. That's a sign that you have to approve my request.
Oh, okay.
If you didn't drink it,
you don't request anything. Oh yes, because
yeah,
I'll drink it. Okay,
you'll get to be offended.
I would have said,
yeah. So usually they said, okay, I will make your. I will
I've got some water somewhere as well, so I can drink that as well.
So he would say, okay, I will do your thing you asked me to, but you have to drink the coffee. He said, no, I will not drink it until you approve my request. It's like that, because it's offended if you didn't drink the coffee.
Okay, I'll drink it. Yeah, it's really nice.
Before we talk to let's move to Newcastle.
Oh, why? What's wrong with that? Why do you want to move to Newcastle? We'll go and watch a game, but we don't have to move there. I know you think you're Geordie, but go on.
I mean Newcastle.
On the subject as a
football club. Yeah. But before let's talk about Retro Show. The one we do with this, you do with Steve.
Yeah, well, that's on tomorrow. It was.
Which team tomorrow?
It was meant to be Crystal Palace, but because, unfortunately, the sad passing of Glenn Roeder over the weekend, who was, for those who aren't aware, he was a player, he was the captain, he was the manager of Newcastle United. Steve's asked us to use Glenn Roeder's games as a tribute to him, one as a player and one as a manager. And so there'll be 10 stories about that tomorrow night as a tribute to Glenn Roeder for all his commitment and longevity and long service to the club. You know, a true gentleman as well. And there isn't many of them about in the football world, but Glenn Roeder was fully respected, and it'd be a sad loss. So hopefully we can do him justice tomorrow with a nice send-off.
All right. So we talk about Newcastle.
Yeah, if you want.
Sure. So from where we start with Newcastle?
I know. I thought it was my show at the start, but it's your show. If you want to talk about Newcastle, we'll talk.
Okay, let's talk. Let's start with this news. Al Mayroon and Saint Maximin will be absent, I think, for 2 months.
Yeah, it was reported to be back in April.
How do you think what we should do without them? Should we change the formation? Should Steve Bruce do something different? Because he usually play with the wings.
I think what sort of formation?
What do you think?
Well, there's no getting away from it. The 2 huge losses there are players who can make things happen. But it is what it is. You know, the other teams have lost a lot of players. I mean, if you looked at Manchester City, they had their best centre half, the best midfielder, and the best centre forward all missing, and they're still doing extremely well. Yes, their squad's bigger, but that's because they were backed and they've got a good manager. But that's another story as well. So we are where we are. To me, there's no benefit of complaining about it and woe is me. And the job is to focus and get on and get as many points to the board as we possibly can, and with the players we have available. So if you're asking what formation I think we should use, then yeah, we've looked at this diamond, and I don't think we've got the players available in the squad to do that. I think the players we've got left, we've got to look about the positions they're most comfortable in, and try and get, and also look at the opposition, and try and get the right players for that formation. Me personally, I would.
Yeah, let's say West Bromwich.
Right. Well,
next weekend.
Okay, West Brom. Well, there'll be.
Let's start from the goal to the goalie.
Okay, well, with West Brom play a big, athletic, strong team as Sam Allardyce does. So it'll be an aerial bombardment. To me, we need to have physically strong players to be up for the challenge. You've got to win the battle to win the war, as the saying goes. Maybe not a good question after Saturday's play, but what the position, the formation I would use would be 4-4-2. And I'm so glad that Dubravka's back in goal. He is the number one, and therefore, when he was fit, he should have been back in almost instantly. He had a gimme game at Arsenal away in the Cup, performed very well considering his first return, and that should have been it. At the moment, Alisson's not playing for Liverpool. Unfortunately, his father passed away as well. But when he returns, he'll be straight in. He's the number one. The same happens at Manchester City. The same happened at Tottenham. The same happens at all the clubs. You have a number one, and if you recall at the start of the season, there's a lot of people who weren't even thinking that Darlow should have been in goal. There was a big swarm of, well, euphoria, not euphoria, but there's a lot of demand for people to say Gillespie should play in goal. And I think Darlow's played credibly. He's in some games he's played exceptionally well, and he's done his job. And his job is, as he knew when he's first signed, there was to be a number two, and he's performed and his stock's risen. But he is the number two, and Dubravka is the number one. And to me, he's probably one of, if not the best goalkeepers we've ever had at Newcastle in my time of watching them. So Dubravka in goal. I think with the 4-4-2 formation, the biggest issue I've got would be the right back. Now, I think this sort of game would have been ideal for Kraft, believe it or not, because he's a big, strong lad. He's a unit, and he can't get stuck in physically. So I think that would have suited him. But let's say he's out. You need to find a replacement. So we can start thinking of different formations. And if we stick the 4-4-2, then you're going to have to play some people out of position because we don't have a right back. So instead of changing things around where you've got 2, 3, 4 people out of position, we've seen the trouble that caused on Saturday evening when the coach gives instructions.
Who should play right?
I would play Murphy at right back. I would play Murphy at right back. I was thinking of maybe Hayden, but he's more needed in the centre of midfield because of why he leaves. So I'd have Murphy at right back, and I would play Paul Tummett at left back. And now if Fernandez is fit, I would have him next to Kieran Clark. If not, then we'll have Captain Lascelles next to Kieran Clark, and that would be my back four. Now in midfield, I've mentioned Hayden already. I would have him as a holding midfielder with Willock in front of him, who can get up and support the front two, and he has the energy to do so. And then if we're going to play Andy Carroll up front, which we should do even with corners and things like that, for defending corners, I think Andy Carroll played well that game we mentioned just before at Arsenal. I would play Carroll with Gale.
Carroll and Gale, but in the middle, just Hayden
Hayden in Willock. I have Willock doing the
Hayden and Willock. There's two more.
Yeah, the wings. Because if you're playing Carroll up front, then you need to have people who can cross the ball to him. So I still don't understand this fascination with Joe Linton. So I wouldn't put him in the team. And if you notice, I haven't put Shelby in the team. You need people who are at this stage of the season who are going to give 100%, and even if they're not performing well, put the effort in. Something that Kevin Gallagher said on the show, you can hide a lot of things by putting effort in. Is that the police again? This isn't a joke. The police have just turned up.
There's a fire.
Yeah, we had a fire before. The police come and told us to put the fire out when we come back. So I would have Fraser on one wing, who is more than capable of producing an excellent performance. I think he's due one, and we're entitled to one of them. And then I'd have Richie on the other wing. Again, he can help cover it with the defensive roles, but he's a good crosser of the ball, and he can lead the forward parts as well. He's vocal. So I'll play that 4-4-2 and have Shelby, Joe Linton, etc. on the bench. That's the team I would play for that particular game.
That's great, but this is you. What do you think Bruce will do?
What do I think Bruce would do?
Yeah, what do you think? Yeah,
I know what I think I'd like him to
Bruce,
do.
what do you think he will do?
Well, I think he will play Joe Linton. I think he'll end up playing Joe Linton where he's played in the last couple of games. He may play Carroll as a lone striker, but I think with someone like Gale, who is what we have left fit, is the most natural finisher we've got. Doesn't make him the best in the league, but he does know where the goal is. And feeding off Carroll, he could knock the ball. The balls could be knocked down to him. He could run under. He could stretch the defence. And I think the little large double act would be suitable for the next few games until we get our best players back. But answering your question, I think, well, I'm not even sure if Steve Bruce is picking the team or the formation now anyway. But
we have to come to
Yeah.
Grammy Jones.
yeah, but I believe that he will try and keep similar to what he has got and try and hammer square pegs into round holes. And hopefully he doesn't, let's see if he has adaptability in these wonderful years of management he's had, and he has learned things to be able to all week be training the players. They've got a full week ahead of them. This is the way we want to play. This is why you want to play. This is what happens. The basics, basically. That's what he should be doing. Whether he does or not, anyone's guess.
Speaking of Grammy Jones, this video spread the last game.
Do I have to drink all of this?
Yeah, or I will be.
You'll be offended if I don't drink it all.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is the video. Yeah. What do you think of this video, Stewart? What was that?
That was a video in slow motion of a touchline, shall we say, dispute between Steve Bruce and Graham Jones. I do think it's been blown up proportion. There's a general consensus to hammer Steve Bruce for whatever he does, rightly or wrongly. Mostly it's wrong, but at the same time, football's industrial. Well, it's a man's game. It's modern ladies, but traditionally it's a working class game. That's what I was trying to say. It's a working class game. Industrial language. I don't think he was swearing directly at him. I believe it was in conversation, and I don't think Mr. Jones was offended too much by it. And sometimes what we've got to do with, and especially the situation we are, and with social media, it's very easy to be overcritical. Sometimes just let it go, because if it won the game 3-4-1, as we could well have done, then I don't think this would have been highlighted as much as it has.
Lately, I've been watching too many games because unfortunately, we are in regulation battle. So I think I watch all the teams. No, I didn't see a team with two coaches standing and talking like this way.
Yeah, well,
so what do you think?
We can only second guess. Who knows what goes on in the corridors of power at St. James's? They're probably empty corridors as well. So I believe Graham Jones has been brought in to assist. He's coming with new ideas, fresh. There has been an upturn in performances because of his arrival, or coinciding with his arrival. And with Steve Bruce, we knew that the Everton game, we've seen Graham Jones was very vocal. Was probably the most complete performance of the season we had when we beat Everton away 2-0. And from there, he took a lot of credit, Graham Jones. Now, whether Steve Bruce liked that, whether he didn't, whether he's old enough and ugly enough to say, well, this is good, I'm the manager, I'm going to get the praise anyway. I'm sure I'll get a bonus if we still be thankful for it. He had hinted earlier, maybe a week or two earlier, that he was planning or looking to change the system. So rather than, I think he went about it the wrong way, he conducted himself the wrong way. And it did appear that Graham Jones was banished to the stands for the next game. But again, any clips that you see, any photographs you see from the training ground, it seems to be that Graham Jones does a lot of the coaching. But that's not unfamiliar with Premier League football clubs. The manager, the head coach is there to oversee, and the other coaches get involved. Graham Jones has come in, he wants to prove his worth. He's got a chance at a very big club. And believe me, Newcastle are a very big club, although the league position belies that, the performances over the last few years belies that. But something that I'm sure you would know is historically over the last, since English football began, Newcastle are in the top 5 best supported teams in the land. So it beggars belief sometimes to think that they're in this constant, let's 17th and above is seen as success. We've had a taste, but that's why we do the retro show. We've had a taste of not even cup success, not even trophies, but we've had a taste of what it can be like to be in the higher echelons, to be recognised around Europe, to be for people to actually say Newcastle are my second club, and it was at the time, you know. So I don't think there's any fans asking for us to instantly win the league at any stage, but we've always asked for credit. That's why we have players like David McCreary or Still Worship, Glenn Roder, which we'll be talking about him in more detail tomorrow night on the Retro Show. You know, people who are 100% committed to the club, and that's what the fans ask for, irrespective of what the Southern-based press will want to tell you. We as fans know exactly what we want, and it's commitment. You know, we'll give our all, we give our 100%. There's people that spend money that haven't got to watch Newcastle play home and away when they can. And, you know, we want that reciprocated, where the players are at least playing with their hearts on the sleeves. So even in the times in the old second division, which is the championship now, when Newcastle were there, you know, they weren't the best players, they weren't the most gifted players, but there was a togetherness, there was an acceptance that if you put the effort in, we'll support you. You know, and there was bad times, far worse. I believe Mike Ashley's got off very lightly, considering some of the chairmen we've had in the past and the protests that have been against them. You know, he has got off very lightly. But one of my favourite sayings is, let's not spoil a good story with the truth. And sometimes the press at the moment with COVID, etc., they need to, and the way the world is as clickbaits, they need to write stories, and Newcastle fans will bite. Newcastle is a big story. Newcastle will always be, and that just shows they're a big club. You know, people want to write stories about us, whether they're true or not, and that's because we're Newcastle United.
Great. Let's move to the question. We have too many questions.
Let's have a look.
Let's talk. All right, one by one. This is from Tom Dixon, our friend Tom Dixon. Next 5: West Bromwich, Aston Villa, Brighton, Tottenham, Burnley. How many points?
Good question, Tom.
So let's count. West Bromwich.
Well, before these 2 injuries at the weekend, I was confident that we would have been clear of relegation well before then. But now West Bromwich, it depends on the formation. The attitude should be 100%. I can see us winning there. I genuinely can't see us winning there, but I say that about every game, don't I? But I can see if we put in match West Brom's attitude and commitment, win that little battle first, even with a weakened team, we should still have enough to beat them. And once we go ahead, hopefully by 2 goals, they'll be finished. And they'll accept that the game's over. We can coast through even 2-1. I can see a 2-1 win, much against me normal 3-1, but I'll say a 2-1 win where we're hanging on at the end and Andy Carroll makes a great clearance from a corner or something like that. So I would say 3 points against West Brom. Aston Villa without Lee Henry. Grealish, yeah, Lee Henry, same thing. Both look the same. I nearly swore there, so without Grealish, yeah. On the same force, but they still have better players than what we probably have, and playing with more confidence than what we have. And I hate saying that again about Aston Villa. I would take a draw against Aston Villa, and I would against Brighton as well. I think, yeah, two draws. 5. So I think with Brighton, they've got the showed us when they played at St James's, they could blow us out the water with their passing and movement. But they're not scoring goals. Unless they play Newcastle, they're not scoring goals. So if we can contain them and match their running, then we should be capable of getting a draw there. The next one is Tottenham home. Tottenham at home. If I want to be honest, I think we'll get beat off Tottenham. They seem to be clicking again, and the much vaunted, much awaited trio of Bale, Son, and Kane are now seem to be for the first time hitting what everyone expected them to do earlier in the season. They're now clicking just at the right time for them to have a strong run and push for the Champions League places. And I think Newcastle will just be a little stepping stone along the way for that. So Burnley away. Again, another team that seemed to be safe as we were. Maybe they've taken the foot off the pedal. Maybe they got caught up with their own takeover stories, and farcical as it is. We're capable. That could be either we could easily lose heavily, or we could scrape a win. I don't see us scoring many goals. I would love to see a win, but but I would take a draw from that one. So
6 points total.
6 points out the next
So
5 games.
if we take this 6 or 5, you think are we going to be safe or still early?
Well, that'll depend on the other teams. But we do need at least, I would say, at least those 6 points from those games, because if we're comparing ourselves to Fulham for the last relegation spot at the moment, I mean, Brighton and Burnley can be dragged into it as well. Depends on their results and performances. The Fulham have got some tough games coming up. We need to have a big enough gap where psychologically they'll just think, well, we're not going to catch this now. We've played really good football and this is where we are. So they'll, at the moment, they're performing probably as good as they can and they're still not putting the ball in the net, thankfully. So if they do get a few tonkins in the next few games, I believe that if we've got a cushion of what would then be 9 points, hopefully that should be enough for us to stay up.
Here we have David Waller. Where are you? Where have you been? I miss him from a long time, but he came.
Okay.
Maybe he came just because for you, Stewart. Takeover talk reportedly. We notice now some days positive, some days negative. What do you think of Exeter? What do you think is
It's something I mentioned about the media before. They've got to write stories, haven't they? And Newcastle takeover story, and Newcastle itself is something very easy to write about. I think there's only a few people in the know with the takeover. We have, as far as I'm concerned, Mike Ashley's employed the best sports lawyer in the business, who, judging by his tweets, when he does tweets, seems confident he wouldn't have taken the case on. Mr. Nick DeMarco QC, he would have taken the case on if he didn't think his winning streak would be ended, would be finished with it. So as long as he's
confident, though.
I'm still very confident.
I mean, for Nick DeMarco,
he's very confident. Yeah. And he's confident. Well, he's got every right to be confident. He's got a record that states that he should be confident. So with his confidence there, we know ourselves that the PAF is still involved. That they're interested. My big concern is whether they'll be interested in the Championship club. I know there's other reports from people who claim to have friends on both sides and write long Twitter stories, etc. But as far as I'm concerned, my understanding of the people of Saudi Arabia, the people I've dealt with over the best part of a decade, and what the PIF are looking for is not just something where they can invest and make profit. They've got thousands of choices around the world, not football-wise, but other businesses which they are investing in. The idea of Saudi Arabia, in my opinion, is you've seen them invest in things like the motor racing, the horse racing now, which was just last weekend here in Riyadh, the World Cup of racing here. There's also the golf. They've even got ladies golf here now, and the men's golf. There's lots of sports that have been. So football is the top, and we all know how much the Premier League is watched around the world. So I can't see if we are relegated. Again, it's just my opinion. Please don't go crazy on social media. But if the worst come to worst, we were relegated, two things. I don't think PIF would want that, irrespective of any 2030 vision, where they're going to invest the same money into a club that's the league below. In this part of the world, status means everything, and Saudi Arabia are the kings of the playground here in the Middle East. And they'll want a team in the top league, they'll want a team that are performing best to give their brand. The country is a brand, PIF is a brand, and to give it the most publicity possible. And to say, yes, we own this, and there's people, from other nations within the Middle East that own countries that are on the Manchester City, for example, it doesn't add up that they'd want to buy a team in the Championship. Hopefully we don't get relegated, so that question gets taken out the way. So if we move on from that, because if we were, I couldn't see Mike Ashley wanting to go back to the table and renegotiate a fair deal. I think he'd be too stubborn to, and it could be a death knell in our club. So what I'm really hoping for when we play Fulham in the last game of the season, we're not going to have a David Kelly moment where he become a legend for the club. We don't want legends this season. We just want to stay up. And I can't see Mr. Ashley wanting to perform around the negotiating table fairly. You know, he's that close to a deal, whether through his own naivety or it's through his own ill advice that he's received. We are where we are. So I think at the time now, we think let's just get behind the team, let the lawyers do their work. The deal's already been agreed.
Yeah, we should focus on
the deal's been agreed. So as soon as they can, the arbitration and hopefully the lawyers do their work and that they find a solution. You know, it could just be something that's tweaked. As I mentioned golf before, it's like when you play golf, you can hit the ball straight 10 times in a row, and one time it goes right, and you try and change everything. It could just be your grip that's wrong. You could have your knee position, your foot position, your back, you know, your head moved, your shoulders. You just need to change one thing. So with the owners and directors tests, we've all heard the stories, no red flags, then there's red flags. Quite possibly, you know, it could just be one or two things that needs tweaking. A few people can save face to get the stories right, and this is why we've allowed it now. When we didn't ban it last time, we just, you know, we paused it. We wanted proof. You know, it can be done, but pride is a stumbling block in this as well. But we know that the AF still want to get involved, so let's hope it will happen. And I'm very confident that by the start of next season, we will be, as a club, when I say we, Newcastle United will be PIF 80% owned and 10% by PCB and the Reuben brothers piece. And we have a very bright future ahead of us. And hopefully we don't have to drink too much coffee to celebrate. So what's the next question?
All right, that was David. Yusuf Rabah. Yusuf Rabah.
Welcome.
Said welcome in Saudi Arabia.
I read that as well. Shukran.
I thought it's in Arabic.
No, it's in English.
Nick, hi lads, great show, looking good, Stewart.
As always.
You need, you know, just to suppose.
Nick's an old friend of mine. I've known him for a long time.
Let's put this picture. We need to fix something. No, just, you know, like make it better.
Right.
Okay, and that was the Riyadh.
Right, there you go, Nick. Well, look better now. Apparently, I've had a hair adjustment or head adjustment.
Right.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, Bruce should have been out a long time ago. The one game to me that should have been out instantly within minutes of it was the Sheffield United game away. The team had never won all season. We set up defensively, and it was as if it was. No, we give them far too much respect, as he does in every press conference to the opposing teams. We should have went there with an attacking formation and said, "This is what we've got. We know we're better than you. We're going to prove it." And if it blew up in our face, then it blew up in our face. But that's in all the years I've watched Newcastle United, and I've watched some atrocious performances. I've seen games we've been beat comfortably and heavily. That performance, that game, that result, the whole thing regarding the Sheffield United away was the worst 90 minutes of football I've seen associated with Newcastle United in my time. So that was a game to me. He'd gone. Irrespective, the next game was Aston Villa, and that was even worse. They got their players laughing. Well, it wasn't worse, but it was just as bad. They got their players laughing at us, saying how bad we were. But for me, Bruce out shouldn't have been in.
I'm sorry to ask this, but I have to. What if we lose against West Bromwich and beyond? We should sack Bruce.
But I think he's here for the season now. Anyway,
No, West Bromwich, it's a vital game.
No, it is. It's a vital. Well, they're all vital games now. For every game should be a vital game. You know, every game.
Especially the one down us.
This is another thing. Is
under us.
When we look at teams around us, and you got to think, we're at that end of the table for a reason. You're not winning games, so you know. If we get to a stage where we can get those 6 points, which would make us, if Fulham were to lose those games that we're playing on that run that was mentioned there. 9 points. That's, I know they've got a better goal difference, but that could take a battering over so in theory we could just be the 9 points, which is 3 wins. Now, if you've got a team that's won 3 or 4 times all season, realistically they're not going to win 4 or 5 times in the last 6 games. So we included, the teams at the bottom of the table, they're there because they're not winning games. I'd rather have the points on the board than games in hand. And I still think we're Stewart. Missed your head, Chris. What was that question? Sorry, Tom. Yeah, Bruce out. Bruce shouldn't have been in, but I don't think he'll be out now for the rest of the season. We're stuck with him. Hopefully, Graham Jones has a more of an influence on the team. Bruce accepts that. Let him stand the sideline and point at things if he wants. But the team should be drilled during the weekend training to know exactly what they need to do. You know, and so yes, Bruce should be out.
Okay, this is our friend. Is it
Raji Gaji. Can you say that? Raji Gaji.
Raji Gaji?
You know what it means?
Raji Gaji. I don't know. So,
Crazy man. It's like crazy man's probably the best way to explain it. Raji Gaji.
Raji Gaji.
Glenn Roder was a true gent in a similar vein to Sir Bobby. Yeah, he was a true gent, well respected. We touched that, and as I mentioned, we'll go into a lot more detail tomorrow on the Retro Show. It's a sad loss, and he was fully committed to Newcastle United.
Evening, guys. Great to see you tonight. Thank you, Dave. It's our
great to see you together.
Pete, yeah, Pete.
That means how are the lads?
Yeah, how are the lads?
It should be HTL.
Yeah, you know that's wrong.
That's one word. One word. How are you?
Old by face will play.
Old by face will play. I thought you were talking about me. We'll play Joe Litton, Wilson, until Wilson's back. Probably. Hopefully not, but probably will. Yep, agreed. Some 4-4-2 with Carroll and Gale up front. The big man, little man. I think
and for me, and Richie and Willick behind them. Amazing.
I think Richie can cross the ball, and you need Willick behind with Hayden. Willick can do the running.
If Bruce was to go, who would you like to replace him, short or Lincoln? I think Graham Jones.
Yeah, I think there is. There's no point in bringing a new coach, head coach, manager in now to try and implement these players. They get too much mollycoddle. You know, sometimes you've got to give them a bit more. You know, but you can't do it these days. You know, but sometimes they not physically, but they need a clip round the ear and get their heads banged together. Where the footballers, they paid an enormous amount of money. They're in a privileged position and they can't complain, oh, we've been asked to do this, we've been asked to do that. They do have brains. They are, well, not all intelligent, but they have a degree of intelligence, especially football. They wouldn't have got to the stage they've got football-wise if they weren't talented. So with Graham Jones, they seem to have bought into him as a person. To bring someone else in now could actually be detrimental to the cause at this stage. So if Bruce was to go, I would put Graham Jones as temporary coach until the rest of the season.
And do you think he?
This coffee's wonderful.
Yeah, really?
No, I still got some. Okay.
And you think Graham Jones he can do it?
Yeah, well, he's proven he's done it. He's getting the respect of the players.
That's important thing.
Yeah, it is.
Most important. All right, so hi Alwaleed and Stewart, our guest tonight. Hello. Martin, our friend. Hi lads, love to you both. Still be safe and don't spend too much in Alwaleed coffee shop.
He's Starbucks. Yeah, well, it's closed, isn't it? So this is why we're out in the desert drinking this fabulous Arabic coffee.
Yeah, because it's special.
Yeah,
special. It has to make special.
It's really nice. Yeah, it's even better when it's cold.
Are you two on roof? Love spinning
on a roof? No, we're in a desert spinning. There's nothing behind us. That's why it's pitch black. There's a motorway in the distance over there.
Yeah, we had fire earlier here.
We had a fire, and the police come off the road and told us to put the fire out. But we're in the desert.
So, how come you dressed like Maid Marian? What's that?
That was from Robin Hood. It's an old English tale.
I used to love Robin Hood. Yeah, yes.
Well, it's actually quite funny. I probably do look like Maid Marian, but that's more to do with my appearance than the national dress.
Okay, this is Mohammed Fahad. What do you think about next year? Forget any efforts in this year. What do you think? I think he made the season.
Well, if you talk about next season, then again it'll depend who owns us and what league we're in. I would like to say that we've got enough to stay up. Yeah, we've got enough. I think we have got enough talent in the squad to stay up. Yeah, just whether they've got the right mentality and instead of being.
I think next year it's dependent what's now.
Yeah, but again it depends. You know, if you've got someone claiming to be a very good manager, then criticises everyone but himself. especially the players. So if mentally, I think this relegation battle will be won mentally rather than anything else. If the players believe they can do it and want to do it, that's it. They've got to want to do it. They've got the talent. There's enough talent in that squad to stay up.
Pete, he said, evening lads, looking good, Stewart.
Actually,
By Spurs, we could have all big
what,
hitters
3 million years
back.
Yeah,
What's
it's better players.
Ah,
Yeah,
but
we
and
could have.
Spurs,
We could have. It's just the way the season goes. When I would rather than being out for the Spurs and the Liverpool and Man City, Arsenal, Leicester games, knowing that the likelihood is we would get beaten those games, and have the big hitters as you call them for the games coming ahead. But it is what it is, and as I touched on earlier in the show, we just have to make sure that we roll our sleeves up and get in it together and make the best of what we've got. There's no point in looking for pity or sympathy, because it's a very unsympathetic league, and no one's going to give us a leg up. We have to do it ourselves. So hopefully hopefully they get back quick. But my big concern is that they try and rush them back too quick, because if the season goes the way it should go, because I can't see too many of the teams at the bottom winning lots of games, as we've mentioned. Those last 2 games that we've got, Sheffield United and Fulham, could be absolutely huge in the history of this club, and that's not trying to be over dramatic. That could at that stage be factual. You know, a takeover could depend on it, on the Premier League status, and if we rush these players back too quick and they get injured, they'll miss those games. Just let them come back when they're fit and ready, rather than beforehand. And let's just fingers crossed there's no more injuries to the forward lines, or we would have to play Joe Linton all the time. And if we're relying on him, we might as well pack up and drive back out the desert. In fact, drive that way further in the desert and not find out what's happening.
all right. Stephen Bourne, Spurs.
Do you know who that is?
No.
That's Spenny.
Spinny.
Yeah.
Oh, secret account. Second account.
No, that's just his
Ah,
YouTube account.
Okay. The Spurs don't like traveling to St. James Park, so hopefully result there.
Yeah, and Mr. Mourinho has much respect for Sir Bob, the house of Sir Bobby, or Mr. Robson as he called it. But he broke his duck last season with a victory near the end of. Let's come off again.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's show you the picture of Riyadh again.
That's all right. Just fix this. It's all right.
All right, hope you okay. So, and continue.
I don't think it looks any different. But so yes, Benny. I hope that we don't expect Spurs. We need to get a result from Spurs. With that, I like to be positive, as you know. But if we go there trying our best, as we should every game, we get beat there. Fingers crossed. We've had results of the games before where it's not going to make that much of a difference. So I would love Spurs to falter at St. James's, as they have often in the past. But I don't think the season's going to depend on whether we beat Tottenham at home or not.
Here, the takeover is in hold today due to injuries. We'll talk about that. You would like to comment about it?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
Well,
regarding what they said, the bar.
Just Barnes, you said you asked who was Barnes, didn't you? He's just another cohort for Mike Ashley. And I believe if the takeover was off, it would come from the club as an official announcement. It would come from the prospective owners in an official announcement. But as far as I know, as far as I understand, as far as I've been informed from people who are close to both, especially this end of the deal, the prospective buyers, the deal's agreed. It's out of their control. And I don't think people getting injured is going to make a difference. What will make a difference is if we're getting relegated.
Yeah, maybe this is the message.
Yeah, it could be, but
the games.
That's on the pitch. All we can do on the pitch is as much as we can to get the results, but they should do that with or without a takeover. The first thing that has to be addressed is whether they're in a position to get taken over, as in, if it gets accepted, make sure we're in the right league. So let's get the results that we need. And if we're to get taken over, I don't think the injuries will make a difference apart from the league position. To answer that.
Tom said, when will the arbitration start?
I don't know.
I think start already.
I'm not one of the legals. I believe the process has started, but if there's a quick fix, maybe it might make sense to delay, even if it has been approved. That you can go ahead. PF on stupid. Far from stupid. They'll be in a position to say yes, we are interested. We've got a deal signed, but they may want a caveat enclosed and put in place, and whether Mike Ashley will agree to that or not is a different matter. But that's for discussions for there and then. And again, we just need to get the results to make sure that these discussions do take place.
Have you two been flying kites today? Look nice and windy.
It is windy. We're in the desert. There's not many buildings to stop the wind. It's not actually windy. It's a bit of a breeze. What's that?
That's our friend Chris.
As a barrister, Nick DeMarco is instructed to
take cases. He doesn't choose which ones to take, but I agree. He believes he will prevail for my client.
I don't know, Chris, to be honest. As I understand the reputation that Nick DeMarco has, I believe it was Blackstone Chambers that took the case, but as a QC, he can decide whether he takes it on. He might have been offered it, and he could have said, I don't want that one. And they may have given, if Blackstone Chambers agreed to take it on, they may have passed it to someone else. But that's a question I think only Nick DeMarco could answer.
There is camels? Martin.
No,
Did you see any camels?
I haven't seen any camels, no. I really haven't.
Can I ask for line-up formation? Will we talk about that?
Yeah, I've done that.
Penman in. I think this is Andy Fraser.
Is it?
I think, I'm not sure.
I'll see you on Thursday, Andy.
Red and white shimag is good look for you, and so for Olympia look.
Yeah, I couldn't put red and white on, Chris. As I mentioned at the start of the show, I definitely couldn't put the red and white on. Couldn't be something. And I tried to explain, I don't know if I said it earlier, but no, this is called a shimag. It's not a shimakum. So I couldn't have red and white on the head. So the shimag has to be white and black or black and white.
Saudis too.
Yeah.
Or Salman bin.
Yeah. Well, funny, you were asking earlier, the people in Saudi Arabia, they've always been very welcoming on the visits I've had here, and very friendly. And there's quite a funny story yesterday. No, I'm not finished yet. I will finish it, I promise you. I was getting the elevator. That's for those in Riyadh, for those in watching in Newcastle, the lift. I was getting the lift to go to the lobby before we went to meet a client. I was with, I told you, I was meeting my colleague in the lobby to go to meet a client. And there was a young lad, I say young, must have been early 20s, standing waiting for the elevator, because American educated elevator, the lift to open. And he's looked at me, and I've got my mask on, and it's actually quite dark. The lighting on the floor, it was quite dark. So he started speaking to us in Arabic, but he pointed his finger down. So it was quite clear that he was saying, "Are you going down?" And I thought, "Do I have a Fulham top on or something?" So joking aside, so I just said "sir," which is Arabic for yes. So he must have thought I was Arabic. So I've got that. I didn't have this on, by the way. It's just I had a suit on. And funny enough, I had a suit with a mask on. And I got the lift, and he just starts chatting away to us in Arabic. And I've looked at him and said, "I'm really sorry." I says, I don't speak that much Arabic. Inglesi. So he understood I was English. 3 floors down, the elevator, lift, doors open, and there's a superstition, I suppose it's called a superstition in the Middle East, that if you're on the right side, you go first. Is that correct? Yeah. So the young guy said to me, please, sir. And I thought, very kind and very polite and no respectful to everybody else. I says, no, right side, you should go first. He went, yes, I should, but you're an old man. Shit. So I just started laughing at him, and he thought it was great, and he's patting my shoulder and everything else. Oh, there, shukran. I went afwan, and off it went. So although people in Saudi are friendly, they can't be insulting without being because I'm not an old man. I'm a
the right is like for a blessing.
Yeah.
So let's see the other game. What happened to you?
I don't know.
All right, nice picture.
I don't keep turning off when you fix it. It's just that this, what's this called? This black
Agav.
agave.
Agav.
This agave's too small for my big square head. You see,
You said this is the biggest. So you're
Is it? So that's why you keep slipping off. Don't worry about it.
okay.
At the end of the injuries are part of the game. Yes, you're right.
Who should replace?
ASM and Almiron,
Yeah.
Gail and Carroll, double act. They've both got some approved new contracts, etc. And yeah, NFC have scored 27 goals this season, 17 goals scored by Wilson. Again,
Gail.
yeah, Gail is the most natural finisher we've got. And if Carroll can have one of his good days and put himself about, I think they could actually, for a few games anyway, sneak some results that are much needed.
If the takeover is done, will you bring Benitez to the club?
Yeah, would I bring him back if it was my choice? Yes. I understand and I believe that he's on good speaking terms with the potential buyers, and he knows the club well. And I think even if it's just a short-term 2-3 year stint where he can bring someone in to succeed him and create a sort of Liverpool boot room scenario, he can get the training ground in order and everything else, get the structure fit correctly. And he's a trustworthy and safe pair of hands. And I believe the fans would respond to him positively, and so would the players. Well, the ones who are wanting to get better and who are willing to improve, because these players were playing well. Now all of a sudden, they don't become bad players. They just maybe coached incorrectly. What is the temperature over there? Well, I didn't want to say it's cold, but it is cold for what we're used to.
It's because it's dry.
Yes,
dry.
It's like I think it's about now. It's about this time of night. It's about 12 degrees, I would say. Would that be about right?
Sure.
It probably with the wind chill factor will be about
I think
10 or 11, 12
10,
degrees.
Yeah,
it's not that bad.
That's remind me before we go to that. Remind me if John from Cutic asked about shandies. Did I ask you this question?
Where?
Remind me of shandies.
You know what a shandy is?
I don't know, but I should ask you about.
Right. Where's his question? All right, I see it. Yeah. Right there.
I think it's relative
Yeah.
somehow. I don't know.
You asked the question: is shandy acceptable on a lads' night out?
Yeah.
Now, a shandy
I forgot to learn
is a lager with lemonade, so it's half lager, half lemonade. So it's like a London drink, Southerners drink. No.
So is it?
The question is acceptable?
Same as a.
Here in Riyadh, it's not acceptable at all. But on the lads' night out that John was alluding to, sorry, it's 100% not acceptable. You should not be allowed in the company if you think you can drink shandy. So there's your answer, John.
This is shandy related to that one.
Choose your glass half full or half empty. Takeover-wise, half full. Coffee-wise, I'm on about 25% left. It's really cool, so it's just going to get next.
We still have maybe 4 or 5 questions. You need to drink it by 10.
I'll just do it in one.
Callum Wilson is doing all he can.
That's fabulous. Really like it. Thank you. Shukran.
Callum Wilson is doing all he can to return.
Of course.
But we shouldn't depend on him. Now we should depend on the one that we have and ready. And the picture of Riyadh, where is your house, Alwaleed? That's going to be a story.
He's got a palace, not a house.
Think you need, I don't know.
Sunbed. Because you see, I look pale. That's because I'm next to Mr. Alwaleed and there's a big, bright white light up there staring at my face. I'll show you my white bits when we meet. How about that?
Freezing. Yeah, it's not much freezing. Not much. Repeat the same question. Right man for the job or no?
Stu DeMarco, Nick DeMarco. Oh, Stu, right? Okay. DeMarco was instructed because he is the best in the business, and Mike, actually, solicitors knew he was the right man for the job. Well, I hope you're right, Chris. You see, I don't know if he was instructed or was offered it. I know Blackstone Chambers took the case on, but with a he was told he had to take it, or I don't know the answer to that, Chris, but you seem to have a better insight than I have regarding that. So, irrespective, he's took it on and does seem extremely confident that he can be successful in his case. So we're all on the same page with that.
That's all that.
Spenny. Who do you think is the oldest, Spenny, Mark, or Stewart? Who do you think's older, me or Spenny, Mark?
I think maybe Spenny.
Maybe. What if he maybe? Of course he is.
We are alive. I should say that.
Oh, you're being polite. You asked me if Spenny was my older brother, didn't you? Yeah, me.
Have you ever
What sort of
been
questions,
on
sir?
Falcon Hunt? No, still.
Have you ever been on a falcon
Falcon.
hunt?
We have
No,
some trips.
no, I haven't.
Because the corona now, it's like
Yeah.
all
I don't think these trips are allowed, but also
No,
when I do manage to get to Riyadh, I know I've done this, but I do tend to be working quite a lot.
Yeah, he just had to tease you, Chris. Good man, you I could rely on your mates. Is there no beer over there? There is beer. Alcohol.
Where?
Yeah, but halal beer.
You tell me now.
Halal beer.
Oh, halal beer. No, it's all right. This has actually been like, I think this trip is like the Middle East version of the Betty Ford Clinic. Quite actually enjoyed it. It's drying out a bit.
All right,
It's quite good.
Last
I'll make up for it when I get back
scene
to
of
Bali.
Riyadh. Last scene of Riyadh, just to make sure.
Well, there's your house there. The
Yeah,
second
the big
there,
one,
the
yeah.
big tower. You made it worse. It's all right, but just leave it.
Okay. So last question we have or comment from Nick. It will be he will not.
No, 100% takeover. I agree with you, Nick. I hope, well, 100% I do still think there will be a takeover. Just timelines, I think anyone would be stupid to predict one now. It's legal, it's more legal in their hands now. What was that last one there?
The one that said get Alwaleed.
Yeah, on the retro show. I asked Alwaleed to come on the retro show, but the retro show's from days when we've been successful, or the match experiences. Unfortunately, due to COVID, etc., Alwaleed hasn't had much of a chance. Well, he hasn't had a chance, not much of a chance to get to a game, so he can't really talk about previous games. Can you see a pup from there, Stewart? No, but I do dream about them, Svenny. I'll get back to Bahrain at the weekend, and I'll make up for it then, for sure.
Final words to the viewers.
Well, for those who have sending comments, for those who are watching, thank you. I've really enjoyed it. And sorry, my clothing assistant, yeah, keeps because they win. No, it's just keep the faith. We will be there a lot longer than any of the management, of any of the chairmans, etc. We've been through worse, and sometimes we forget that. The fans who support Newcastle a long time certainly have been through worse. The ones who are maybe coming in late and giving up, that's their choice. You know, we've all complained in the past when St James become like a theatre, the atmosphere tips. Well, that's what happens when you have new fans. It affects all clubs. But what we have is, when we're together, we are the best fans in the country by a country mile. And our job is just to hope and stick together. Let control what's controllable. We can't control the takeover. We can't control what's happening inside the headquarters of the Premier League. We can't control injuries. But what we can do is be positive and support the lads that get on there. And hopefully they reciprocate that by putting 100% effort in. If that is the case, then we'll be safe this season. And then we can all look forward to onwards and upwards to much better times in the coming months. And that would be my message. Thank you again, and shukran, everyone, for watching.
We'd like to thank you. It was an honor, Stewart. We are really happy to have you tonight on this special show. Hope the fans and the viewers like it as well. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
1, 2, 3. You're so now.
Saudi national dance, Salman
Penman.
Even I can't dance, but I can do this one.
Slowly.
Yeah, slowly. It's like a shark being in the wind, isn't it? We all done. See you, everybody. Thanks for watching.